Today I am going to be making a LEGO game for the first time in my entire game dev career. And to make things even harder, I'm only allowed to make the controls one button. This means that this entire keyboard is useless, but the one key I deem worthy. Will I succeed or fail? Also, before we begin, I'm working on a platformer party game. It's on Steam at the moment and any wishlists would be appreciated. Thank you. So Unity posted this LEGO contest, where you need to make a LEGO game that surprisingly only allows for one button to be the controls. The contest has a few categories, but I decided to go with this one, a LEGO Ninjago themed game. By the way, this video is sponsored by Unity, which is super cool, so thank you Unity and make sure to check them out. Anyways, let's get into it. So step 1 was to create a Unity project and import all the assets we needed. Unity provides the LEGO microgame asset as well as the Ninjago add-on. These basically will have everything we need in terms of models, graphics, and even sounds. Later on I will show you, but we can use things like bricks inside of Unity and literally build anything we want. Basically LEGO. It's really cool. So with the project set up, we need an idea. But making a game that only uses one button is harder than it seems. A lot of ideas won't work because they function on the basis that we have multiple keys, which in this case we don't. So I sat down ready to think of some ideas and I had nothing. So I went back into the project for some inspiration and I found this model, a cool looking Ninjago ship. And that's when I thought, why don't we make this our player? We can have it constantly move forwards and press a button for it to turn/drift, sort of like a racing game. Now here's the thing, there are definitely more unique ideas, but it's all I had at the time, so I decided to roll with it. So to make the ship constantly move forwards, we can apply velocity to its rigid body. If we do this in the update method, it means it will happen every frame, basically resulting in our ship moving forwards infinitely. Now we need to make it turn or drift, whatever you want to call it. I tried a couple of ideas. Firstly, lerping between the rotations, which basically just means that we can rotate our ship from point A to B smoothly. But this later became a bit of an issue, as you could easily break the system by spam clicking the button. So instead I just made the rotation be instant. This means that we can no longer break things, but it also doesn't look as cool. But I think not breaking the game is a priority over looks. Next up is Procedural Generation. The idea is to create a never-ending road that the player can constantly travel on. And there is a few solutions to this. First of all, we need to set some rules. Well, in fact, we only have one rule, which is that the road can only turn right. This is because we only have one button that allows a player to rotate right, meaning the roads also have to turn right. So initially, I wanted to use some sort of an algorithm to generate the roads, like the wave function collapse algorithm. But it seemed like a bit much for a simple concept, which is why I ended up making my own system. And here is how it works. We can create different roads such as these and place them into an object array. We can then randomize what road we want to spawn with a simple random range check. Then we can check where the end of the previous road is and spawn the new random road just at the end, essentially creating a never-ending road. Checking where the end lies is quite simple. We can either use maths to calculate it or just create a transform object by it. Either way, with that we can indefinitely create roads. But we don't actually want this. If I were to run this, Unity or even my PC would crash. This is because we are trying to instantiate too many objects at once. So we need a system to decide when to spawn the new roads. And how do we do that, you may ask? Well, before I can show you, I actually need to go to a lecture. For those who don't know, I'm actually in my second year of university, which is why I haven't been as active on YouTube, as there is a lot of uni work that I need to get on with. The walk was quite nice, but also cold, and the lecture was alright too. Now that I'm back though, I can tell you what we can use. Vector-free distance. What this allows us to do is check the distance between two objects. In this case, we can check the distance between the player and the end of the platform. And if they are close enough to one another, we can spawn the new platform up ahead. And to make our game lag less, we can also check how far away the player is from the previous platform. And if they are far enough, we can delete it. This basically results in there only being 2 to 3 platforms on the screen at once, which helps reduce lag and means our PC will no longer crash. Perfect. So next up, we need to make the game have a difficulty curve. You see, if we left the game as it is, it would be pointless and boring. So we need to add more difficulty to the game. I created this distance meter that shows you how far you've driven your ship. This basically gets calculated by adding the player's X and Z position. Z is them moving forwards and X is them moving right because the platforms turn right. And made it so that the further you travel, the faster the ship becomes, therefore adding difficulty to the game. I also added some visual effect to illustrate this change and made the speed smoothly transition to its next stage, so that it's not instant. Okay, so the final things for our game are a game over system and polish. So the way you can lose the game is by going off the platform. This is simple because we can use a trigger box to check if the player has left the track. Then just call the game over screen and bam, we can lose the game. Honestly though, this section was a little bit more complicated because for some reason my trigger boxes weren't working half the time, but I ended up making it work. So earlier I mentioned the ability to build your own Lego pieces. Well, here it is. To make the map have a ninja style, I started building my own Lego builds inside of Unity. It's actually super easy as everything snaps to itself. You can change its color, rotation, and a bunch of other things. And it ended up looking really cool in the game, so I placed them around the roads. So as I said before, the final aspects are polish. I ended up adding some ambience and music to the background of the game. These sounds were taken from the Ninjago Lego add-on, by the way, for anyone interested. And created a wind particle system to make the scene feel nicer. I also played around with some post-processing which really helped the game look cooler and added more particles to the ship itself. To make the game look more Lego-y, if that's even a word, I created some structures to place around the roads and added more assets from the Ninjago add-on. I soon realized though that due to the particles, road instantiation and other things, I couldn't add as many assets as I wanted because it made the game really laggy. So there isn't many Lego decorations because the game would be too laggy. But at this point the game was finished. I did a few more things like bug fixes and slight alterations, and yeah. For anyone interested, I'll leave a link to play the game down below, but be aware that there will probably be some bugs, and make sure to check out the Lego microgame and Ninjago assets as they are actually super cool and free. Thank you to Unity and all of you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.